Hi, I'm Jean-Eric Ernault here with Jake Morrison, who was the VFX supervisor on Antman. So, what did you do in the film exactly? You did pretty much everything. You did.
Well, we're on for a long time. It's been a nearly 2-year run of picture, and as the overall production visual effects supervisor, you get to be there from the very beginning. So you're there from the script, you get to see the storyboards come to life. We get to work through the previs. You do pre-production all the way to the shoot, and then of course we do the post-production. So you do get a great overview on the whole place. It's a really interesting job, and this one's just been especially challenging.
Were there any red flags when you started the production? Something that just scared the shit out of you when you began that?
Well, I think the key is everybody's seen shrinking films before, and the issue is, although each of the shrinking films that's come before is the best that the technology could possibly do at that time, audiences are really sophisticated now. Like in 2015, everybody has seen such consistently high levels of work. So they know if you show them something that isn't completely photoreal, in a heartbeat they'll know that it's a fake. So the first thing we needed to do is make sure all the macro environments he goes to, you need to absolutely believe that they're completely real. So photoreal needs photos, so we said we had to start with photos, so we had to build real sets and shoot all those. And then at no point in the game can you ever think that Antman or Yellow Jacket, the characters in there, are not people in suits. So even if they're absolutely tiny, half an inch tall, and they're running around and fighting each other and throwing lines at each other, you still have to believe that that's Paul Rudd in the suit. So those two things actually, if either one of them had failed, it could have been fairly bad.
Pretty epic, I imagine, but you pulled it off pretty well. So
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thousands of artists around the world contributed to this film, for sure.
I'm sure of it. Tell me, how is this film different from other Marvel movies? Because this is not your first one.
No, I mean the last one, myself and Diana Giorgiti, who's our visual effects producer, literally finished Thor: The Dark World on a Friday and started on Antman on the Monday.
Wow.
It's very different. I mean, there's no Asgard. Asgard in Thor would be, say, the bathtub in this movie. I mean, it's completely apples and oranges, very, very different. The powers that Thor's got are completely different as well. Obviously, he has his big hammer, and he's able to summon lightning, and he's a god. This is 180 degrees. Paul Rudd plays Scott Lang, who is literally a guy. He finds the suit, he's led to it, but he finds the suit. And so it's completely different in many ways, in the sense that Tony Stark made his own suit. Thor was born to it. Captain America, found his powers along the way. But any of us could technically be Ant-Man. Any of us could get in the suit and do this stuff. And the powers that you get are from the suit entirely. So it's very different. But he can't fly. He can punch really hard. But the weird thing is he actually can't even run very fast, because if you're half an inch tall and you're running even at Usain Bolt speeds, you really only cover about 3 inches a second. So he has to jump an awful lot.
Was that difficult? I guess that was mostly CG. Was that made?
Well, what we did is we made sure that for any of the landings, if somebody's jumping or landing, the key is to make sure that they look like a real person. So we had Paul, he's actually really very physical on this one. We had him do a lot of motion capture. So we really had Paul Rudd in there doing this stuff. And we had Colin, who was his stunt player for the film. So we did motion capture for all that. So we had real people, real physics, like as they hit the ground and roll, or as they jump, it's really an actual person in the suit, and you believe that. But then, of course, animation takes over when they get in the air, and suddenly, he's jumping the equivalent of 2 football fields for us. But then when he lands again, we go back into real, genuine people physics.
Is there any shot in there that you really are proud of, specifically?
Oh, yeah, many. I mean, I think all the vendors did extraordinary work. I mean, the train battle, there's some just great moments in there with Thomas the Tank Engine. I think we all love that. All the way to the other end of the scale, we open the film in an incredibly complicated sequence where we have 4 actors in one scene, and only one of them is in the right time space. We had to de-age 2 of them, and we had to re-age 1 of them. So that's the opening scene of the film, and if you don't get that, it's Michael Douglas we're talking about, so if you didn't get that completely right, and Peyton, our director, expressed that to me a number of times, if that wasn't completely convincing to the audience, you've lost them in the first scene. So I mean, the weight on the shoulders of VFX departments was actually fairly immense on this one. So from the bookends of the movie, we're proud throughout. We think the vendors did incredible work, and there's not a bad shot in there.
Let me ask you, when you deliver a project like this, how do you feel? Like nervous, sleepless nights? You wonder how people are going to react. What's the feeling once the film is delivered?
Oh, it's immense relief. I mean, it's as my mother is fond of saying, because we spent 2 years on it. It takes longer to make one of these films than it does to make an elephant. The gestation period of an elephant is 18 months, I believe, and so to actually, it takes that long to make an elephant, but it takes even longer to make one of these films. It's crazy. So, so much of your mind and concentration, and you're thinking about a lot of the how. You start off with the how. You get these blue sky scripts where incredible set pieces are in there, and you could almost go any direction technically, and it's up to us to really drill down and work out what we think is the best solution for the problems that the filmmaker is going to give us, the opportunities. So it's, in some respects, it's a bet. You bet your best instincts on what you think will be the right way to deliver the work for the studio and for the director. And so, in some cases, it's a year before you find out if that bet's paid off correctly. It's obviously something that you base that upon experience on previous projects, but there's certainly a relief. When the first shots came out in Cassie's bedroom, and we saw the train and we saw the room around it, and it was 100% CG, but it looked...
It was 100% CG?
Yeah, 100% CG. The room was real, so we shot all of that room.
Okay, so you have both a real and a digital.
Well, and we did that with all the sets. We always started with the real set.
That's massive.
That was the thing. We had a thing called the macro unit that we started, which worked in parallel with main production, that literally created somewhere in the region of 50 individual sets and ran for 40 days. And they literally went through and harvested.
Are those like scanned or recreated manually? A bit of both?
A bit of both. Really an exhaustive process, I would have to say. We'd get the sets, we'd light them. We had a dedicated macro unit director of photography. We would bring in motion picture photography. We would always shoot in motion picture photography, so you had like a perfect true reference of what it should look like. Then we would go in with a stills pipeline where we would literally shoot hundreds and thousands of stills. And then we'd go in with a 3D scanner, scan the entire thing. So then you've got all the building blocks that you need to be able to take this, and because the appetite from the filmmakers is to be able to put the camera anywhere, do anything, but it has to be real.
Very quick final question. After this project, did you have a vacation or do you have a break?
I do have a vacation, going to England to see the family, and absolutely can't wait. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Thank you very much. This is Jean-Eric Ernault for CGS-TV.